Greetings, one and all. Welcome to Dave's Dungeon and another exciting episode of Spooktober movie review around the campfire. Tonight, we honor the man, the myth, the legend, the man I hope to one day earnestly work with, Jordan Peele. And tonight, we honor Mr. Jordan Peele with a double feature. Now I know some of you are going to ask, Dave, where's our Get Out review? That movie is honestly deserving of its own review. So, 1 year, one day, it will get a review by me. But, for now, I would say that movie doesn't fit tonight's theme. And doesn't fit the theme I think Jordan Peele was going for. Because tonight, we look at what I think is Jordan Peele's Threats from Beyond. That's right. I think both of these movies are tackling the same thing. Well, not quite. So you see, in some ways, it's more about how we relate to the things beyond us, the things we haven't encountered yet, the things we don't know about. You see, in each of these movies, it asks very simple questions about how we would react given we were visited by something that isn't of the normal. Strange beings from not here, in an ever sort of rounding question on what are we and how do we consider ourselves in a world that we think we understand and have some grasp on, but seriously misunderstand at any given moment, given we think we're at a certain place within it, having overcome it in practically every way. But, as each of these films points out, just one encounter with the strange and abnormal can send our entire society spiraling desperately out of control. And I gotta say, the more I get excited and see more of Jordan Peele's work, the more I fall in love with him, and the more I just want to I'll keep wanting to work with him, and I keep wanting to see more of his work. But before we get off too far into what I think of both these films, let's give out the MVPs. I do want to give Jordan Peele an MVP for both of these films. I think they are both of a caliber that makes them worthy of being called horror classics. But starting with Us in 2019, I would love to give MVPs to Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Shahadi Wright Joseph, Evan Alex, and Elizabeth Moss and Tim Heidecker as well. For Nope, I would love to give MVPs to Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, as well as kudos to Stephen Yeun, Michael Wincott, Brandon Pera, and Keith David. Keith David is always a win. These movies are phenomenal, and you could not go wrong with either one if you wanted to watch them on their own. But I think these two movies are responding to a fundamental observation by our good writer, director, and actor Jordan Peele. And that is, if we, in our current age, in our current society, in our current attitudes and state, if we were to encounter visitors from beyond, whether they were alien in nature or just like us, what would we do? How would we react? And would they be as tolerant of us as we were of them? As he points out, no, I don't think so. Not by a long shot. But I do have to say, it's not all hope is lost, because I think in each he does point to us in a way. So let's start there. And let's start with talking about what he means by Jeremiah 11:11. Now, I know not all of you are going to be biblical scholars, and for all accounts and purposes, I am neither. But, according to the passage, it says, "Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I am about to bring on them disaster that they cannot escape. They will cry out to me, but I will not hear them." Now, I know you're hearing that and going, okay, that sounds like just simple foreshadowing. Sounds like he's saying there's a proclamation of catastrophe. But you have to understand what the Lord is responding to. In this passage, God is answering the Jews of Jeremiah's time and warning them that he will not protect them because they have broken their covenants with him and have gone off to do their own thing and must suffer the consequences of their disobedience. So, by turning aside from God and instead turning to these idols, these things that they instead worship, they have condemned themselves to, for lack of a better term, their own demise. So, in us, that is what Adelaide is greeted to upon first viewing. That's the first clue that something isn't right that we pick up on. There's a man standing there with the sign, Jeremiah 11:11. What is Jordan trying to say to us here? What have we done wrong? What has society done wrong? And in some ways, you can kind of hear what he's saying to us. That we have in fact sinned, whether we know it or not. And in some ways, those sins are enough to broach the covenants with God. So, hence you see all the consternation and apocalypses going on, and every little thing that just will not go right. So, the year is 1986. Simpler time. Adelaide wanders along the Santa Cruz helps if I don't trip on my words, beach boardwalk, and enters Hall of Mirrors. There she encounters... I'm stumbling all over the place. There she encounters another little girl that has just so happens to share her face. That is called Red. Suddenly, she passes out and is rescued by her family. 33 years later, Adelaide gets talked into going back to this beach. Don't ask me how. Husband Gabe, played by Winston Duke, must have had some powers of persuasion, and you know what I mean. And so the two of them, along with their children, Zora and Jason, go back to the beach, where they meet up with their friends Josh and Kitty Tyler. Now, by all accounts, you're thinking they just went to the beach and spent a day at the beach. What is the sin? What did they do wrong? Well, as it turns out, these people had been experiments, these others, these tethered, and they had been down underneath the shores since 1986, probably longer. Remember all the bunnies in the cages? Yeah, what were they eating? Yeah, all of that comes to the surface a little later, but here is one society living and basking, and you'd have to watch the movie the first time and then watch it again to come back and notice it, but here's one society basking in all the blessings and enjoying the fruits and their sweetness. And yet underneath their feet, there are the downtrodden, there are the dejected, there are the mirror. Those we do not wish to speak of. Those we don't appreciate. I wonder if Jordan could be pointing us at that. He is doing so much to work in what is current in society to what is horror now, and twist it and twist it and twist it until he finds just the nerve that is scaring the fuck out of all of us. So we see one set of people enjoying a nice, clean, safe, fruitful environment with opportunities, loving warmth and growth. And in another, we see nothing. It's mirror negative. It's antithesis. But little do we know, something has changed. Something all the way back in 1986 happened that we didn't know about. Turns out, the little girl Red, yeah, she swapped places. She went to the surface after tying little Adelaide down in the underground. She stole her life. So, the woman we think is the good guy, no, that's the tethered. That's the other. The woman who struggles to speak, that's little Adelaide. That's actually the little girl. So, in some ways, we ourselves are fooled from the very beginning. You see, we don't even understand who we're dealing with. So we think the mother's a good guy, but in reality, she's one of the earliest to slip in. we get the invasion. And I gotta say, some people said this was the most lackluster part of this, was them just standing in the driveway and the sort of way it billed as a home invasion. But think about it. What would you do? The horror in this isn't so much what's done, but the suggestion of what would you do if your own face showed up at your front door with a pair of gold scissors for you? I know what I would do if it's hands across America. Nope, I'm taking the scissors. I'll join the rest of you in the dirt because I don't want to deal with what it's like to pretend to be an altar for the rest of my life. Nope. Because that's what it basically revolves to, is each one of them has to defeat their evil clone. And as we see, one by one, they're able to do this because in some ways the human avatar is the soul, that thing that they couldn't reproduce in the tethered. The soul is important. And so we do get a sense that we could have survived, that there was hope if anyone had done anything. But and more so of this, if anyone had cared, if anyone, instead of forcing the alters to live in the worst of places, understood them for a moment and gave them their own place, there would be no need to untether, as it were. And I gotta say, it's sort of pointed. It's very sort of pointed of like, do we need a divorce in that way? You know, do we need as a society to untether? Yeesh. The notion's scary all on its own. And so, in this way, he's brought us as the enemy. Us as the, what would happen if we stumbled through the galaxy, through the beyond, through the unknown that we don't even know exists, and we found ourselves, but just enough different. What would happen if we did that? It wouldn't go good, according to us, because the whole time we're concerned with our own lives and our own well-being and our own technological god, so to speak, rising us to new and new and new heights and more and more and more. We're forgetting to be caring. We're forgetting to take the lives that are all around us with us, and to remember that it is not through some greatness that I am sitting here talking to you. It is through an invention that someone else created. It is not through my own doing. And so it is in how we show care to those outside of us that we show our greatest civilization, as it were. So everyone forgets that. It's not the cell phone in the 24-hour stores and the room service at the touch of a dial that makes us great. No. So we cut from that as what would happen if we encountered ourselves out in the great nothingness of the beyond, to what would happen if we encountered a greater being, one we might have mistaken for an angel, one that might have considered us food. And I gotta say, the other way this one considers us petty to the point of idiotic is enjoyable, laughable, funny. It's not laughable, it's just funny. Because, of course, we're this simple and naive. Of course, if we can't make use of it, then it's killed. And of course, this goes for the horse, as well as the monkey, as well as the alien. And yeah, I do mean full-fledged alien from beyond, from the stars. This movie is a visual spectacle that is just, and as the movie says, spectacle is what it's all about. Because that's what you think when you hear the word invasion from space, visitor from outside the world. You think a spectacle. You think, oh, everybody's going to descend and there will be nothing but, cameras, and oh my God, it'll be such a sight and everybody will see it. And yet that's not the way the spectacle usually works. Now, is it? Usually you're alone. Usually there's no way to prove what you saw. And usually it's gone. A spectacle. And in some ways, that word has its own negative connotations, as the movie defines. And before you go, so Dave, how does this bear in mind Jeremiah 11:11? It's not quoted in the movie. Are you sure about that? What are the numbers on the back of Angel's van? FE1111. No, I know that's not Jeremiah. And if it's not F but J, that's even better. But I think it's FE1111, which to me, FE is iron. That's I. And then 1111 is 1111. So it's like right there, but you gotta look. And you gotta understand that all in the same way, where Adelaide worshipped the life that she had and didn't understand that not doing what she needed to do, which was tell her family about what was fixing to happen, was going to threaten that. And in the same way Adelaide is addicted to her life and what it means to be on the surface and out amongst the people, in that same way, OJ and M are addicted to fame, and they're addicted to what they've got to do to survive, which is get money. So in that same way, that addiction they can't quit is the business. It is, they could have got in a car and drove away from this thing, and yet, but for their ambitions, they had to withstand the horrors of every time they came across this thing. And OJ understood it better than most. And even he seemed to misunderstand the scope. That, yeah, while you're an animal to this thing, what's that mean? While you're considering this an animal, what's that mean? It behaves just like everything else down here. It behaves just like everything else down here, meaning it's probably been here before. Meaning it's not unlike all the rest of the life down here. Yeah. The idea that we're all aliens and that we're just what they seeded back, it's not lost. And in some instances, sure, that idea is kind of crazy when you consider the thing ate everybody and the horses and anything it could get its hands on. Sure, it wasn't a ship, it was a creature. But that's to say, don't you eat everything that isn't, immediately cute to you? I mean, it didn't eat all the horses. And again, you and I are two of the most ravenous, voracious murderers known to man. You know why? Because we murder to eat every day. Got to. Whether you eat a salad or you eat the steak, we kill to survive. If you don't eat life, you're dead. But when we get on the other end of that cycle, and something comes along and goes, nah, 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 nah. Why is it always the monster, the freak, the abnormality? No. It's just the circle of life, and it moves us all. Yeah, that's right. We're not above what we think we're above. And yet, we're not as alone as we think we're alone as we do. But if I could sum up these two movies, that's how I'd sum them up. And, of course, if you can't get along with it, you kill it. So, these movies are full of really brutal moments, kills, that just you should see. Especially in Nope, I gotta say, it's raining blood from a lacerated sky. When you know that moment's coming, put Slayer on and watch it while Slayer's going. Put on Raining Blood and just let it go. It is majestic. As for Us, I really love how they explained and the scene with the son, Jordan, and his tethered, when they're standing in the road and he backs up, making the tethered back up into the fire. That scene, it explains so much, because you have to look at him and you have to look at how close him and his, what I would call his negative self, what I think even Jung would call his shadow self, and he's like having an animus, light and shadow self, id and ego kind of moment, more like id and super ego. So he, in a moment of realizing what's going on, takes control and goes, no, if he does what I do, we do together. And so, in holding that, understands more than anyone else in the film. And it's just the same. In not understanding what they're dealing with, you start, looking at the eye of this thing, Jean Jacket, not understanding what you're looking at until too late. And then until more too late. And until you see it in all its glory, until you see Jean Jacket widespread, you don't understand. And in some ways, that's what Jordan's still telling us, that there is still mystery. There are still visitors. There is still information and things we do not understand. And our current state is such, our current irrational indifference is such, our current self-indulgence and self-interest is such, that the first visitor we get, we're going to try to murder. Because any difference from us is immediate. Yes, we wish we were Star Trekkers. We wish we were there, but we just simply aren't. And even if they're close, even if they're wildly above what we're capable of, they're a threat. And we will not hesitate to consider them as such. And I hope he does more in this vein. I hope he gives us more. I hope he explores more in the sci-fi, because like I said, the context I'm exploring with these is just one context. There are so many more, how technology is our god, whether aliens are real or not, whether the us are real people or whether they're ghosts. You got so many contexts to explore within these two movies, so I highly recommend you go see them. I think one of them is available on Peacock, and one of them is available on either Amazon or Netflix. There's your one obligatory Netflix mention. Not that they ever have anything that you really want, but I think that's going to do it around the campfire this time. Creeps, ghouls, freaks, weirdos, dungeon dwellers, and mutant fam, one and all. Thanks for joining me around the campfire and listening to these reviews. I hope you'll leave a like. I hope you'll subscribe for more. I hope you'll ring the bell so you'll know when I drop more of these. One more sleep. No, 2 more sleeps. 2 more sleeps. October 25th, we will have our Christmas horror spectacular episode this Friday, followed by Long Legs on the 27th, and then The Spine of Night on the 29th. But that's gonna do it. So, night. Sleep tight, and don't let the creatures from beyond get you in the night. Sweet dreams. Oh, and shout out to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio for tonight's background music, Fear Incorporated. Thank you so much.